Hello Gobs and welcome back to another spooky video for this Gobboween season. If you're not a Gob, get subscribed so you can become a Gob today. Now for Gobboween, you guys are going to want to be playing something spooky. So today I have brought upon you a spooky RPG that I'm going to be recommending to you guys to play for this Gobboween. I will be doing a Gob Reviews games once more. The second one. The first one will be listed in the cards or whatever they're called. Let me start off by saying I don't like playing, whatever you want to say. I'm not a big fan of horror games. I'll watch horror games, but I absolutely hate playing horror games, and you can call me a big baby in the comments if you want to, but I do enjoy recording horror games for the channel, and as I was playing today's games, I was constantly on the edge of my seat, headphones on, lights off. Now, you won't hear me in the recording, but in the future, I will be trying to do more, I guess, let's plays, if you want to call it that. For now, just know that I'm just not the biggest fan of horror games. So I think it'll be much better when it comes to recording horror games in the future. That's just a little bit about me. Let's move on to today's video. Now, for today's Gob Reviews games, I don't really want to review this RPG as a casual or a game to play at your leisure. I want to review it as a horror game. I want to give it gold coins based on how it makes me feel, how scared, I guess. Not really feeling scared, but how suspenseful, how on the edge of seat it can make you, and that's what I want to review it as today. Whereas the first couple game reviews is how it's a game overall or how I enjoyed playing it casually. Today's game is going to be specifically focused on being how good of a horror game it is as opposed to a regular game. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get to today's video. This is the most disturbing RPG I've ever played. Now, when I was thinking, be it late, about Gobboween, I was wondering what type of game I should review. I was thinking RPG Maker horror games, but those don't really encompass RPG elements such as equipment and combat. Those are more exploration and puzzle solving as opposed to, I guess, original RPG elements. It doesn't mean they're bad, it just means it's not my type of taste. For example, like Ao Oni, from what I remember, is just you running around and running away from the monster while solving puzzles. I'm not sure if there's any combat in it. Corpse Party is another one. I'm pretty sure that's another RPG Maker game. And there's World of Horror is another one. And, you know, those sort of games. They're horror games made in RPG Maker, but they don't really have RPG elements to them, as far as I know. So for today, or this Gobboween, I really wanted to do a horror game that also had RPG elements, and surprisingly, it's also made in RPG Maker as far as I remember. I'm pretty sure I've seen some stock stuff in the game that's definitely from like RPG Maker. Not to knock the game or anything, but that's just what I've seen. So if you guys couldn't have tell, today's Gob Reviews games is on the disturbing survival horror RPG Fear and Hunger. Now, I've seen a bit of gameplay on it on like Oni's Plays. They played it. Go watch their little series on it. So if they could put it on YouTube, I can put it on YouTube as well. Just know for recording, I spent an hour playing this. Now, I've played it in the past and I've played it much harder, but I can't see me beating this game. So I'm just going to review it as is. And again, it's more reviewing it as a horror game rather than as a casual game because of this game's infamously dark themes. There's some serious stuff in here, and they are not afraid to put their money where their mouth is. Let's get on to talking about the actual game. Now, if you want to see how I review games normally, go ahead and go watch that first Fallout. And in the first half of the video, it's how I have the review section broken down. But just a quick overview is that there's 5 sections, technically 4, but whatever. There's visuals and animations, graphics, stuff like that. Then it's gameplay and mechanics, which is usually the biggest section. Then there's sound design and music, which sounds like 2 separated sections, but they're one because it's worth 2 gold coin as opposed to all the others. And then there's writing, which is talking about how well the story is put forward, at least, or how much lore is built into the world. And then finally, is any extra points, if any, like points that stand out to me that could be gameplay or music that I put at the end and give an extra gold coin or even take away gold coins. Then I get my final rating, and that's the system overall. So short and sweet, let's get get moving on into the Fear and Hunger Gob Reviews. I must say, before I continue on, this is your warning for extremely dark topics. I will not show them, I will touch up on them. I won't use too many explicit words. I'll try to dance around them as much as I can, but this is your warning now. If you don't like dark themes, then this video probably isn't for you. You should go watch something else. But this is your warning now, so if you continue watching, it's all on you. Now, I gave a bit about what Fear and Hunger is, but just to touch up, it's a survival horror role-playing game developed by Finnish game developer Miro Havarin. I know I'm not going to look up how to pronounce it, that's how I'm going to say it. Now, I was surprised to find out that this developer was Finnish, because this kind of, I don't know, this kind of gives me like Japanese vibes a little bit. It just has those dark themes that Japanese people are kind of known for, such as Junji Ito, which is kind of what the game reminded me of, just to a way more extreme. That's it on the game. You can go read more about the development if you'd like. As I stated, this isn't going to go through and read a Wikipedia article. It's about the review. So let's move on to our first category. That is the visuals. Starting out at the menus and whatnot, it appears as a normal RPG maker, but then it has this dark and dreary art style that adds to the game. There's not a lot of bright colors, and the bright colors themselves are dull, in fact, and it creates this weird dreary atmosphere. It really sets the tone of the game. As far as the art style goes, I can't really say if I like it or don't like it. I mean, it suits the game well, and it works great for a horror game, so that's about all I have to say. As far as the sprites and stuff goes, there's a lot of weird looking creatures. I'm not sure. I don't think I agree on some of the designs. Again, this isn't a review on how casually I play it. This is a review on how horrible and disturbing this RPG is. So, for that, it's working so well. And the one thing to note about the visuals is the disturbing game over scenes. These are, honestly, I skip these. Whenever you die in the game, depending on what kills you, gives you a different game over screen, and just to give you a little bit, there's a bit of like getting skinned alive, and then they make you crawl. You have to play out these game over screens, and that's half of it. I mean, sometimes you can get lucky and end up alive in a flesh pit, and then you just have to walk around the dungeon with no legs, which means you can't run from monsters anymore. But as far as these game over screens, as soon as they start, I close off the game because I am not watching that. There is some extremely messed up stuff in these game over scenes, and in fact, because of these game over scenes, it kind of incentivizes you to keep your character alive so you don't have to sit through these awful game over screens, or you could just be like me and just exit out of it. Now, apart from the game over scene animations, there's other animations in the game. It's pretty standard. Attack, walking, magic, visual effects all remain the same. It's all kind of, well, it's built into RPG Maker, but they do put a little bit of their own spin on it. And as far as the character sprites and all that, if you lose an arm, it shows in the sprite that you lost an arm. So I can appreciate that, both in the artwork and in the sprite of them walking around. They won't have the limb if you lose that limb. So that's pretty cool. I mean, it's not cool, but whatever. There's some preset animations in certain scenes that I've noticed from other quotation mark RPG Maker games, but I really don't care. I'm still gonna give this game credit on just having these awful visuals. I mean, those game over scenes alone is enough to earn it just a gold coin for horror and visuals. So that's it. For visuals for being a horror game, this game gets a gold coin. And we are going to move on to our next category, which is the longest one. Mind you, I tend to type these out before I play them, but then I kind of free-live it. I just like having bullet points. It helps me keep moving along. And I gotta tell you, this next section is very long and might take up most of the video. Our next category is gameplay and mechanics. Starting out, there's 4 difficulties presented to you when you make your first run or start a new game. I don't remember what they are, but you'll see them on screen, and I always pick the first one because even the first one is incredibly difficult unless you know what you're doing or you just get lucky. There's slight character creation involved. You get to pick out like a story, and in that story you're granted options. These options determine what skills your player starts out with and what equipment they receive as well. So whenever you start out a new game, you could go through and click which options to make the character that you want to make the most. most. Personally, I like doing the knight and going defensive stance so I don't lose any limbs, but there's 4 characters that you can pick from. They all have their own set of skills, and they start off with these souls, I think it's what it calls, or the birth sigil, whatever. These determine what abilities they can learn on, and throughout the game you can do some stuff to appease the old gods within the game to unlock new skill paths. But you have to find soul stones, you gotta collect stones, and you gotta find a room, if you're even lucky enough to get past it, to actually go in there and upgrade. And that's another thing, a lot of this stuff is randomized. The rooms all stay the same, but the locations on the map change depending on every new game that you do. That's pretty cool. I mean, you can learn, like, okay, you know what's going to be in the library, you know what's going to be in this room, you know what's going to be in the torturer's room, but you don't know where those rooms are going to be. And of course, you'll encounter enemies. Rather than having random encounters, it's more, you see enemies on the map. If they see you, they'll chase you down. You're usually slower than most enemies, so good luck. Some of them are slow and easy to avoid. There's not a lot of a treasure, there's no XP system, there's nothing from defeating enemies, so most of the time it's better to bypass them unless you know how to take on that enemy. But most enemies in this game are going to be downright brutal, which brings me to the battle system. The battle system is very unique. It's the thing I like about the game the most. Aside, you know, if it wasn't a horror game, this would be very good, but it being a horror game is kind of what makes it work. You pick which body part you want to attack or even cut off. So these big guys on the screen, I have to censor it. Obviously, don't ask. It's censored, but I found out you cut off the right arm so you don't lose any limbs, because one attack usually means you lose a random limb on your body or even your head, resulting in instant death. So you hit the right arm, and that stops them from attacking. You hit the left arm, that stops them from pummeling, and then you hit the legs and then the head, so you don't take any more damage or instantly kill them. Now, which is some BS in this game. I hate it that if you cut off the head, the monster usually still gets to attack you, which can still result in the loss of limbs, which sucks. Losing limbs means you can't hold a weapon in some cases. You can't hold a shield in your offhand or two-handed weapons. You get hit in the legs, you can no longer sprint, and in fact you start to limp around, making you either slower or eventually crawling if you lose both your legs. Now you can bypass this by wearing guards, but there's arm guards and leg guards, so you can only pick one or the other. Personally, I think arm guards are a bit better, because at least if you lose your legs, you can still fight back and defend yourself. I don't know, I didn't play the game too much, and I'm not going to unless you guys really want to see it. So if you really want to see it, like the video and comment down below, and I may even make a let's play or a Gob plays, I guess. We're moving on. So because of the battle system and then one attack being able to just chop off your limb if you don't have a guard, means hit or misses are really brutal. Whenever you make an attack, it's like holding your breath, hoping that you hit, and even more hoping that you cut their limb off. Them hitting you could be entirely different. At most, you hope you just take a bit of damage. That's the best part. If you could take an attack and only lose health, that's like the best thing, because it's very unlikely that they'll miss you. So taking damage with no other effects is the best you can get, but you can lose a limb, and you can even gain status effects that can really detriment you, such as an infection that slowly kills you, and you have to find either a green herb, or you can use a bone saw, but that's kind of a trap. It says it cures infections, but really you lose the limb that has the infection in it. I mean, it's kind of like you kind of get it from hindsight, but I didn't really realize because I'm stupid. But we're just going to move on. As far as gameplay and mechanics go, this is it's almost like a roguelike. It doesn't put itself as a roguelike, but I would technically put it as a roguelite if you see nothing on the video. It's a lot of experimenting and finding out, doing situations, fighting certain monsters, picking up certain items, and even equipping certain stuff, because there's curse rings that you can't take off. They're good, but you can't take them off. So you kind of have to just keep going at the game, and you slowly learn along the way of what to actually do. Now this is, I mean, there's some stuff that just like downright screws you. For example, you can climb inside a toilet for whatever reason, or an old style latrine which is like a wooden platform with a hole in it. You could climb in it, there's nothing at the bottom, and you're indefinitely stuck in there because the walls are too slick with fecal matter to climb out. And the game doesn't game over you. You have to sit there until your character slowly dies, or you reload a save. If you even get to save, which is another feature about this game. Save and loading are, or at least saving is a complete coin toss. Not loading, you can load the game just fine, but saving is a hard one. Now, as far as I know, there's only one room in the game that's actually safe to save without having any trouble of being ambushed in the middle of the night, or whatever else happens. I don't really want to say it. You can kind of get the idea of what happens if you fail to flip toss to save. And I think you don't get to say. I can't really remember. I haven't failed these flip tastes. Yeah, you can get lucky coins to give yourself a second coin to flip, so I always save them for saving so I can actually keep progress. I rather take the penalty for failing a save. Usually, I mean, some of the stuff you fail to save, it's automatic death, but I try to keep the lucky coins for the bed because at least I can reload the save rather than having to spend it all on trying not to die or whatever. And being an RPG with RPG elements means you can get party members if you can find them. Furthermore, if you can convince them. Again, this game's a lot of experiment, testing, finding items, hoping you find the right items to convince the right people. I mean, sometimes you get people to join you, and then sometimes they stab you in the back. So that's just part of the game. The game doesn't hold bars. It will really just punch you in the gut and make you really regret your decisions. So. But having extra characters in your party means they have hunger and health and can also develop problems such as infection. Just like you, they can also lose their limbs and even die completely. I mean, aside from them stabbing you in the back, you can give them equipment, but then again, if they stab you in the back, then what are you going to do? But they also have hunger, which can be a big thing later on. You find a lot of food, but once you start getting deeper in the dungeon, you stop finding food, and now you have to take care of the hunger, or they slowly die. There's crafting. You can craft a fetus. No, I'm not going to show it. But that's about the basics of the gameplay. I mean, I went on a while talking about the gameplay. So again, I would recommend watching someone else play it, or not even that. Just if you're really interested in the game, this is for next section. But if you're really interested, just go and watch a lore video about it. Or if you really want to, you can brave the dark themes and play it. I mean, it is Gobboween, and it probably is the time to play a game like this. But at least the game doesn't have any type of jump scares as far as I think. Everything is tense, and it has you on the edge of your seat. Every attack, hold your breath, hoping you hit. Unless you're just tired at this point and you're like, I don't care, kill me or not, I'll make a new game and go back in it. But starting out, if you never played this game and you're like me, who doesn't handle horror well, then this game is, well, some parts might jump scare you, but for the most part, it's not like in-your-face jump scare. It's not like Five Nights at Freddy's where expecting the jump scare. So as far as I've seen, nothing has been in-your-face, cheesy horror game. It's all been tense, high octane, I guess. Like running away from a monster and whatnot is really, I mean, again, it's just really tense. That's it. That's the gameplay mechanics. The game is brutal and it will assault you both. I don't want to say this. I wrote this down, but I don't want to say. The game will assault you. I did say there was dark theme, so it will SA you both in the metaphoric sense and in the literal sense. Those game over screen, so moving on. It gets a gold coin for gameplay mechanics. Gameplay mechanics, gold coin. We're moving on. The next category is sound design and music, which usually for sound design I include voice acting, but there's no voice actings in this game as far as I've seen or heard. That just adds to how terrifying the sound design and music are. The sounds are your usual drones and groans, but I gotta say, whenever you encounter a monster, that bell sounds or whatever you want to call it, that sound always makes me jump, even if I run into the monster. I mean, it doesn't make me jump, but it always makes, you know. And then as far as the music is horror music. I mean, I don't really know how to explain it. It's like watching a horror movie in those parts where you gotta hold your breath and whatever. I keep saying the same thing over and over, but I mean, it's horror music. It is terrifying. The sound design and music is terrifying, and it sets the game really well. So, sound design, music, gold coin. Moving on to the writing. As far as the story goes, depending on what character you play, is kind of changes the story. I mean, it won't change the story overall, but it does define the motivation for your character to go down into the dungeon. And throughout the game, they will see, I'm pretty sure they'll see other characters that they know, and that's kind of how the story changes. But the story overall, all the lore built around the world won't change depending on the character you play. That being said, there's tons of books you can pick up and read. There's characters that you can talk to that will give a little bit more, or you could simply just look at the environment. I'm not sure if there's a bunch of environmental storytelling, but a lot of this game, you probably have to be like, you probably have to pick up every book, read it, piece everything together. I'm not that type of person. I would rather just go watch a video about it, which I'm going to recommend to you guys. Rather than play this game, just go watch someone break it down and analyze it. That's going to be way better than trying to play through the game and having to experience all those awful things. But if you can muster that, then go ahead and play it. As far as the writing goes, it's dark, it's dreary, it's horror, it gets a gold coin. That's all I have to say. Again, the writing in most games usually goes over my head. I know I'm not the best reviewer, but I still think I said a lot. I said what I had to say. Would I recommend this game to other people casually? No. If you want to play it as a horror game for Gobboween, then go right ahead. It's not that expensive from what I remember, but if you do purchase it, I would recommend watching what shows up in your recommended games on Steam. What is it, your discovery queue, because since this game has sexual themes in it, it will show you sexual RPG Maker games. So just a warning, if you do buy this game, do expect to see those things show up. Final rating. For a horror game, it gets a 5 out of 5. As a casual game, it gets a 1 out of 5 because it's just that I don't think any normal person should play this regularly without feeling some sort of emotion to it. It gets a 1 out of 5 because I like the battle system. I think cutting off the parts is a very unique way of doing it, but if you want to play a Souls-like game that's similar to it, I recommend playing The Surge. That game also has you cutting off the limbs of your enemies, and then you even get to use those limbs to your own advantage. So here's your second review. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my Gobboween game recommendation for the year, and I have nothing more to say. So if you guys enjoyed the video, like it, I guess, or subscribe or something. I don't care. Do whatever you want. I don't like doing all that stuff, but whatever. I hope you gobs have a lot of a day, and see you in the next spooky video of Gobboween.